Красно житам, де соне, річка сходить, зіяни, зеніко, низенько заход. Низенько заходить, да й славної парині, дай уже ж він, ой, жана.
We've lost the sound.
Sorry, Nadia, that was my fault. I did mute everyone and we lost the sound. Thank you.
До дівчини ходи, да ой не ходи, жидай до мене, ой, козаче, жибою, Боже ж ти жонатий, да ой, як будеш і дай до мене, ой, ходи ти, жидаю, бережи свою, оби свою жон. Убий свою жонку, та й порадь мені, жидай моя ро, озлюбезна, жидаю, жонику, як жонику вбивать. Як жонку вбивати, да ой, як прийдеш і дай до мене, ой, додому, жидай не не стане говорити, не стань говорити, да бери її, жидай за русу, ой, як косу, жидай
Хоби чай поставити. Я цим займуся.
Oh goodness. I'm going to put one more video on. It's only 2 minutes, and
Okay.
that way it'll give people 2 minutes to come in. This is you got to see the older generation. Now you get to see the younger generation. Boy. Okay. So it's 3 after. I don't know if you want to do your introductions and your what is it? Your warnings about anything, and then we can get started.
Thank you. Welcome everybody, and huge welcome to Nadia, who's come to share some songs and some ways into making a different sound, perhaps than many of us are useful. So lovely to see people joining us from all over the world. I originally arranged this because members in my teaching network, the Natural Voice Network, wanted to connect with and learn something of the Ukrainian, a beautiful Ukrainian singing tradition, but we've opened it up and it's just gorgeous to see so many people. Yes, the video will be available afterwards. If for any reason we have tech problems and it drops out, just wait a minute and jump back in again. Obviously, we're hoping that we won't have any problems, but just to say that, and just enjoy. The Nadia has shared scores and MP3s for afterwards, so that you can think, oh, I enjoyed that so much and I've immediately forgotten how it all went. The video will be available, and resources to help us going forward will be available as well. So just sit back, enjoy. I'll drop the lyrics into the chat for people that haven't had a chance to print off the PDF, and I'll hand over to you, Nadia. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you for being here. I sing these songs all the time by myself, so it's nice to have someone to sing them with. So the songs that you heard as we were coming in, one was from the Poltava region, which was in central Ukraine. That's from a village in Kitka, which, in case you're curious, the lady who is on the right just had her birthday on Monday on the 14th, and so I called them. And as of now, hopefully it will stay this way. They're great. Nothing has gone wrong in their part of the country, so I'm just hoping and praying that it stays that way. And then the girls that you saw singing are girls from the Kiev Academy of Music and Arts. A couple of them have graduated recently, and I have to tell you, I have no idea where those girls are, whether they've emigrated, whether they've decided to stay. And that particular song is more from kind of southeastern Ukraine, from the steppe region, and where they're known for like long, slow songs. We're actually going to go to northwestern Ukraine today, and so I'm going to show a couple maps because I love showing maps and other resources so that you know about where we're heading and what we're doing. So let me speaking of maps, let me go ahead and pull that up. So Ukraine is broken up into different little ethnographic regions, and this is the map that I'm going to show you is kind of like a bare bones basic kind of map. There are many more regions than this, but the two songs that I've chosen for you are from like the olive colored region, which is up towards the northwest. It's called Polisia, which literally means beyond the forests. The Kievan region of Polisia, which is called Kievan Polisia because it's just north of Kiev, was affected by the explosion of the Chornobyl reactor. And a lot of the villages in that region were forcibly evacuated. And then further to the west, you have what is known as Western Polisia. Those villages didn't suffer as much from the fallout of the reactor, and so they weren't evacuated. But in general, the Polisia region is fairly isolated. It's not mountainous, but it's kind of marshy, very foresty, and not necessarily easy to get to. One of the things, if you following the news at all, you know that there's this long line of tanks that's trying to get into Kiev, and it's just kind of stopped. Well, it's going through Polisia, and one of the problems that the tanks are having is that they're just stuck in the mud. This is one of the things about Polisia, is that you can't really get in there very easily. And so, hooray for Polisia. Glad they chose that path, and they can't get anywhere, and they're just kind of stuck literally in the mud and can't get anywhere. But that also makes it a very kind of remote area, and it allows for preservation for certain kinds of songs. And the first song that we're going to learn today is a spring song. It's the perfect time of year to be doing these kinds of songs. And so if you look at how our calendar is laid out, the beginning of the year used to be in March. And if you think about it, like September, October, November, September should be the 7th month of the year, October should be the 8th, November should be the 9th, December should be the 10th, which means the beginning of the year used to start in March, but then I can't remember which one, but I'm sure there's a historian who could probably put it in the chat. There was some Roman emperor who decided that the year should start in January, and things shifted. But the year would start with spring. And so in Ukraine and in Polisia and in other regions, but I'm sure that it happened in other regions as well, but it preserved itself more in this Polisia region. They would have these spring calling songs, and there's a variety of them. The ones that would call the spring would be done right around this time at the beginning of March, and they're really loud songs. And the reason that they're loud is because you literally had to go outside and sing these songs in order to wake up the spring. If you didn't sing them, spring wouldn't wake up and winter would stick around. And so these are kind of like pagan pre-Christian songs. These are really, really old. And because Polisia is not very hilly, so what would happen is usually the girls would sing these songs. The girls would go up onto the highest point of the village, if that was a hill. If the village wasn't particularly hilly, they might literally climb onto the roof of their house, or they might climb up a tree, because you wanted to be as close to the sky as you could be when you sang these songs. And then these songs usually were accompanied by something called hukanya, which means you would do this whoo kind of sound. And that sound was literally the sound that got carried up into heaven to wake up the spring, because that's where spring was sleeping. She was sleeping up into the heavens, and you would need to wake her. Other kinds of songs you would have with songs that would be accompanied by dances. That's the song that we're going to learn today. And the dance is called a chorovod, which means that you would basically walk holding hands, not in any particular pattern, whoever would lead it. It's kind of like a snake-like path. And not necessarily very vigorous kind of movement because you're singing while you're moving. So it was kind of like a walking song. You walk while you sing and you create these little patterns and the line follows you. Sometimes they might go under people's arms and create like little chain-like patterns. I'm not exactly sure if that's the case with this song. But this song was definitely intended to be done with movement. And the spring calling songs would generally end end of April, beginning of May, because by that time, spring would pretty much be here. Warmer weather would be here, flowers would be up, and you wouldn't need to call the spring anymore because hopefully by that point, she would have already have arrived. But in order to do this, I know it's later in the day for you, but if you're somewhere else, it might be early in the morning. This might be the very first sound that you've made in the day. You kind of want to wake your voice up a little bit. And even if it's the end of the day, you want to be able to do this. So in order to get the sound, people often ask me, they're like, how do I do this without hurting myself? I want to be able to sing for a long time. The first thing that you want to do is think about the shape of your face. Very often I encourage people to think about singing with what I call the Balkan Smile. And what do I mean by the Balkan Smile? Like when we sing in classical music, we do a lot of gymnastics with our mouth, e, e, a, o, u, and we like round our lips and everything. When we sing in Eastern Europe, whether it be Bulgarian, I'm going to actually show you a Bulgarian video for like 2 seconds to show you what I mean. We, e, e, a, o, u, there isn't a lot of movement here. And this smile helps bring the sound more forward because, I'm from North America, born in North America. We tend to talk very much in the back of the mouth. And so our resonance is in the back. If you're in Eastern Europe, you use all of these resonances, your sinuses, your nose, resonances above the teeth. And so if a Bulgarian person is going to talk to you, or a Ukrainian person, they're going to talk up here and use all of these frontal nasal resonances, which if we did that, we would be considered irritating. Like that is an irritating resonance in North America, and we don't tend to use it very often. It's used in Eastern Europe all the time. That's where they talk, and so when they sing, that's where it comes out. But if you're not used to talking in that place, you're not used to singing in that place. I also encourage people to find their inner goat. So we do a lot of meh, like bleating like a goat. So we will do that too. But I also, before I get any further, I do want to show you very quickly the video that I'm talking about, and I will include it. This is Kremena Stancheva. If you are a follower of Bulgarian music, you will know who she is. I spend a lot of time looking at people's mouths because, that's where you can figure out what's going on. So watch her mouth because it's really important. So here we go. So as you can see from that video, there is not a lot of movement going on, especially the lady on the right. I love her. She's just kind of like this the whole time. So we're going to do that as part of our exercise now. We're going to go through all the vowels, and we're going to use the letter Z to help make our teeth buzz in order to make that happen. So Z, Z, Za, Zo, Zu. Now Ukrainian vowels are like Latin or like Italian vowels. They're not diphthonged. So it's just E, E, A, O, U. We're going to sing them all on one note. So there it is in the chat. Z, Z, Za, Zo, Zu. Really buzz that Z. Really make that smile. And just Z, Z, Za, Zo, Zo. Just to really feel all of that buzz. So sing it with me. And Z, Z, Za, Zo, Zo. And you don't have to zizazazozu. Keep the smile and really feel your teeth buzzing, feel your nose buzzing, feel your sinuses buzzing. We're going to do one note higher. Z, do it there with me, and Z, Z, za, zo, zo. And if you want to get really aerobic, it's not really aerobic, you can do 3 notes up, 3 notes down. Z, Z, za, zo, zo. Really simple. You kind of use that in classical music all the time, but still really feeling very forward in the face, very bright, and especially for northwestern Ukrainian Polisia, the more you can get this sound in your nose and make it very thin and very bright and right in there, the more you're going to be authentic in your sound. So 3 notes up, 3 notes down. Z, Z, za, zo, zo. And just go up 1 note. And I promise we'll move on from this and start calling spring very quickly. Z, Z, za, zo, zo. Good. So that's a helpful exercise. Another great helpful exercise is to, I often make people do this, especially when we're in smaller groups, is to have people like pretend like they're shouting to their neighbors across the street. But you can't do it by squeezing your throat. You can't be like, hey! Because that sound is not going to go anywhere. You really have to use your whole body when you're making that sound. Hey! And really call, like really make the room reverberate and call to your neighbor across the street. I know for some of you it's late at night. You don't want to wake your neighbors. You might want to try this tomorrow. Police and women like to sing outside because they like to have the sky call back the echo. Because they're generally really loud singers. So singing in the house could be a little loud. But really, practice shouting across the street, hey! Like that. Or my friend Ina from Ukraine likes to call for a girl named Lena. Also because that is very bright and up in your sinuses. She likes to say, Lena is the only girl who can save you. You are being chased by a bear. And you have to call for Lena, and Lena will save you. So you have to go, Lena! And so you call for Lena, and Lena will come and save you, and that will help you. And she will rescue you. So that's something else that you can do. But enough of that. We need to get to our first song, and we're never going to get through all of this because we got a lot to do today.
That was gorgeous. Thank you so much. I'm just interrupting for 2 secs just to say to people, we have set it up so that you can't unmute to make it easier because there's so many of us in the chat tonight. So please, if you have any questions as we're going along, just drop them in the chat and I'll ping them over to Nadia or help you unmute come the moment. So don't suffer in silence if you're not quite following what's happening. Thanks, Nadia.
Absolutely, and I will just keep going because I have a tendency to do that. So the song that we're doing today is from the village of Rychetia, which is actually in the Chornobyl zone. Here's, again, loving maps. So quick history lesson. In 1986, at the end of April, the Soviet Union decided they wanted to do some crazy test at 1 o'clock in the morning at the Chernobyl reactor. The test went horribly wrong, and the 4th reactor exploded. And then this is kind of where all the fallout went. If you notice, the little star on the map is where the plant is. But most of the fallout actually ended up in Belarus, unfortunately, because that's kind of how the wind shifted. And in Kiev and Polisia, which is where the song came from. The West wouldn't have known anything about this disaster because the Soviets wanted to cover it up, except Sweden was like, why do we have this radioactive cloud over us? Because that's the thing about radiation. It doesn't really believe in country borders. And because Sweden found out about it, because they had a radioactive cloud, the rest of the world found out about it, and then we still have this. And that is actually one of the scariest things about this war in Ukraine, is that was one of the first places that Putin sent his army. And I was like, why are we doing this? Why, if nothing else, why are you doing this? But what happened was villages in a radius around the zone got forcibly evacuated. And this song is from one of those villages that got forcibly evacuated. I call it a cliffhanger song because what happens is you have this lightning bolt, and lightning is very powerful, especially in, if you look at old pagan songs, because lightning kind of regenerates the earth and gives it power. But in this song, you have lightning going across the village, and it ends up striking a young boy. And so everybody's afraid to do anything with this young boy because he's kind of laying there. It says he looks like white as paper, and the body's just laying there. But of course, who's going to pick up the body? A widow, Domna Ivanova. Now you have to remember, widows are viewed in some songs very negatively, in some songs very positively. In this one, she has magical powers. She scoops up the kid, walks up to the church, and here's where I call it a cliffhanger, because usually stuff in songs happens in threes. And this one, for some reason, we only have two. The first magical things that happen is the doors of the church fly open by themselves. And then the second magical thing that happens is the candles in the church light by themselves. And then I'm like, okay, there should be a third magical thing. I think the boy comes back to life. That's my guess. We don't know because we don't have it in the source recording. But that's what I think happens. So I'm going to sing through just a couple of verses for you, and then we'll go ahead and start learning it. There's a refrain that always repeats. But just to give you a sense of how this song goes, we'll learn it in a lower key. I'll sing it in the original because it's meant to be high and loud. But then we'll sing it in a we'll learn it in a more forgivable key. Ой, летит стрела до Йодосела. Ой, леле, вода калева города. Да вбила стрела хлопця й малеця. Ой, леле, вода калева города. And then it goes on for like a few more verses. Don't be afraid of this sound. I know usually I come out with that and people are like, oh, I couldn't possibly. Yes, you can. Don't be afraid of it. So, that's the first thing I have to say. It's written in the key that I just sang it in. So again, those of you who have perfect pitch, and if you don't have perfect pitch, don't worry. Those of you who have perfect pitch, don't freak out. Those of you who don't have perfect pitch, you have nothing to worry about. So, let's look at the refrain first, which is the second line. Oh, which of course starts with something tricksy. So, I'm going to turn that off for just 1 second. In Ukrainian and in Slavic languages, we have something called palletized consonants, or I like to call them softened consonants. So, L's are sometimes tricky for people. L's are softened, D's, T's, S's. So, if this is the hard palate of your mouth, this is the roof of your mouth, the part that gets burnt when you drink hot tea. And this is your tongue. Usually when we say the letter L, we just go L, 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 L. When we soften it, what literally happens is the tip of your tongue goes to the middle of your hard palate and then slides to the front of your mouth. We don't do this in English. This happens in Slavic languages fairly often. We use it for the word love. We use it for all kinds of things. We're going to use it right in the beginning of this song, but I just wanted to show you what your tongue looks like when you have to do it. So the word is le, le. So we have two of those. So your tongue's going to go le, le. So everyone say oi, le, le. So do that with me. Oi, le, le. And if you say Lela the first time, Lela is the goddess of spring. She's not going to come down and strike you with lightning. She'll forgive you, but keep working on it because it's important. Because it's also a giveaway of, oh, well, they're not a native speaker. They can't say Lela. They say Lela. So work on Lela. Le, le. Okay. Going back to the refrain, I will share the screen. Okay. Here we go. So, the refrain. Oi, le, vada, kole, horoda. If you can roll your R's, please do. If you can't roll your R's yet, that's something to work on, or you can just flip them. So I will say the refrain one more time. Oi, le, vada, And it says kole, but it's kind of like half o, half a, because this village is very close to the Russian border. So dialectically speaking, sometimes it'll sound like a, sometimes it'll sound like o. So kole, ho, ro, da. And part of your group, if you're doing this song in a group, will sing a drone, which means they will sing one note. And part of your group will sing the melody. And there are variations in the melody. And if some of you sing one variation and some of you sing another variation, that is authentic, and we love that. So I'm going to sing this in a lower key. We'll do it here. That's very forgiving and very low. So that will be nice. That should be very easy for everybody. And then we can scooch it up as we go. So that's the melody. Sing that with me again. The other thing that happens is there should be, you hold that ah with the fermata for a very long time, and at the end, that's where you do that hukanya with that little whoo. They don't do it very loud on the source recording because they have to do a whole bunch of them. So they're kind of like, woo, like, let's get through all 20 verses of this song, and then maybe at the end we can do a really good one. So, that's pretty much how they do it. One more time. And then if you're doing the drone, one more time for the drone. So if you're feeling really ambitious, you can sing the melody against my drone. That's a great way to do polyphony over Zoom. I can't hear it, but you can hear it. So, and that refrain happens after every verse. So if nothing else, if you get lost in the verses, if nothing else, always come back and sing the refrain. It's kind of like a designated driver song. And usually only one person sings the verses anyway, and everybody comes in on the refrains. This is how these songs are built. Sometimes you'll hear in the source recording extra people singing in on the verses, but it's almost always just one. And if extra people come in and sing, they'll generally do it at the tail end of the verse, not right at the beginning. They'll give that special lady her moment in the sun. Okay, so let's look at the verses now. I did provide a pronunciation track recording. So if we don't get through all 8 of these verses in the time that we have, because I want to make sure we have time to get to the other song, I'm not too worried. I want to get through at least like 3 of them, and also sing this a little bit higher, because right now we're singing it in the key of learning. So, verse 1, we again have a soft L. I mark the softened consonants with an apostrophe, so anytime if you're looking at my transcriptions, if you see a consonant followed by an apostrophe, that means that consonant is softened, and you do that whole tongue against the hard palate thing that I was showing you earlier. So, the first words, oi, letzit. And so again, you have that soft T, when you do that T, you have to stick your tongue up in the hard palate. Strela, we're going to roll our R. Dai udovj siela. I'll say that one more time. Oi, letzit, strela, dai udovj siela. Now this time you say it with me. Oi, letzit, strela, dai udovj siela. And then we go on and sing the refrain. So here's how it would sound. Oi, letzit, strela, dai udovj siela. And whoever's singing the solo, or if a group of you is singing the solo, when you finish holding that first note at the end of the line, I'm going to turn my sharing off for a second. When you finish that note at the end of the line, you have to like, whew, just like, I didn't notate it because, like, how do you notate it? There's like this descending that happens. It's like, well, we got to the first line. Hallelujah. I can put this giant basket of laundry done. Whew. And you just let that note fall. And then, and then you can go up into the stratospheres. Does that make sense? Okay, so we put down the laundry, then we sing to wake up spring. Now, don't let that little ornament scare you. Ornaments are something that you can practice in the shower every morning. It's not something that your neighbors want to hear you practice, but it's it's like the motorcycle going down my street. Nobody wants to hear that. But, we hear it anyway. So when you see those little triplets, don't let them scare you. That's under tempo, so you can listen to that and practice it. And then you can do it a little bit faster. And then you can do it a little faster. And that's how you do ornaments. It's slow practice. It's not sexy, but that's how you get it done. Okay, so I'll sing the first half, and you sing it with me. Do that again with me. One more time. And now the second half. One more time. Second half. And we hold that for a long time. One more time. And then we put the laundry down. The whole line, I'll sing it 3 times. You sing it with you. If you want to listen the first time, sing the second 2 times. Listen the first 2 times, sing the third time. Whatever makes you happy. But I will sing it 3 times. Now go on to the refrain. Okay, so far so good. I cannot see the chat when I'm sharing my screen, so hopefully, so far so good. Go on to the second. All is well. Good. Second verse. Davbila strala. So strela and strela are the same thing. Just in the first verse she said strela, in the second verse she said strala. Did she forget what she was saying? We don't know, but we're following the source recording. Davbila strala. Then the KH. When you see the KH, it's like ch when you're going to buy a loaf of challah. It's at the back of the throat, ch. But you have to add an L then. Chloptsai, because the word chloptsai means boy. Maladza. So everyone say that second line with me. Davbila strala chloptsai maladza. One more time. Davbila strala chloptsai maladza. Good. And this, again, is variation on the first. There aren't cute little triplets. Davbila strala chloptsai maladza. So kind of like the first one, not the cute little ornaments. Listen again. Davbila strala chloptsai maladza. And we're still going to drop our laundry at the end. Everyone sing it with me. I'll sing it 3 times. Davbila strala chloptsai maladza. Davbila chłopcaj malaca. And then we go to the refrain. Okay. And then we'll go to verse 3, and then we'll just sing these 3 verses, and then we'll see what happens next.
Just going to ping a question your way, Nadia.
Yes.
Is that all
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Great. So Linda's asking, when I hold my smile and try to sing forward, my throat tends to close. Do you have any tips?
Yes. Okay. So singing is such a tricky thing because we have to use metaphors. It's not like the piano where you're like, just put your finger like this and press down. When we're singing in this more belty style, physically what's happening is your larynx is lifting a little bit in order to make that happen. If your larynx is not used to lifting, you're using muscles you haven't used before, and so they might be getting a little tired. That's the first thing that may be happening. The other thing that might be happening is your body is freaking out, which is probably actually more likely. I often tell people to imagine their throat is like a bullfrog's throat, and it's nice and big and relaxed. Another thing that's very helpful is literally to like give yourself a massage, and even while you're singing, you notice I'm moving all kinds of stuff around here. It's not affecting the sound at all because my throat, I mean, I've just been doing this so long that my throat doesn't do this when I sing. If you're new to this, your throat might be going, oh, I need help. Tongues do this too. Tongues will pull into the back of the throat because they want to be helpful in some way. They're not really helping. So we work a lot on releasing tongue tension, doing what I call tongue push-ups, sticking the tip of your tongue behind the bottom teeth and stretching out the middle and going like that. And making that sound for some reason is also helpful. But massaging this and really, the other thing is really focusing on making that resonance. And making that goaty sound. Now, if we had time, if there was just like 12 of us, I would make all of you go one by one and sing so I could hear you. But there's 166 of you, so I can't do that. But really, relaxing the throat as much as you possibly can when you're meh. And also connecting your breath. I'm also going to show one more picture. Sorry. Thank you. This is a really important question. And you guys can learn verses of songs. And I want to, it makes it sound like I'm not doing anything when I'm like, you can learn verses of songs without me. You can't. I mean, how did I learn these songs? I listened to old ladies singing. I'm sorry, it's a nice day for like the first time and whatever, and we've got motorcycles all over. I learned these songs by listening to recordings of old ladies a million times over and over and over again. But we don't often talk enough about breathing. And breathing is so important in any kind of singing. So I love this picture so much. This is one of my favorite pictures ever. So under your rib cage, you see colored in red is your diaphragm. And then way down at the bottom of the picture, also colored in red, is your pelvic floor. Your pelvic floor is so important. Your pelvic floor muscles are so important, and we need to use them in singing. And everybody talks about the diaphragm, and nobody talks about the pelvic floor. I would like to advocate that your pelvic floor is almost more important than your diaphragm when you sing. And you really need to connect to the pelvic floor. There are a couple great pelvic floor videos that I will make sure that I include. Because, I mean, these are pelvic floor therapists, and they know way more about the pelvic floor than I do for talking about how to breathe properly and connect to the pelvic floor. Because if you don't connect to those muscles, your diaphragm ends up just flapping up like a window shade that's out of control, and you don't want that. But if you're not singing fully on your breath, and if you're not using your pelvic floor and your diaphragm correctly when you breathe as you sing, your larynx and your muscles in your throat and your tongue and other muscles in your body are going to try and compensate. And that is not going to help you for your longevity for your singing. So breathing properly is so important, and lying on the floor and breathing. Lying on the floor and singing is something that I make people do a lot. And so how do we connect to that pelvic floor? So right now, we can do it right now. Just take a big breath. Fill your lungs up as much as you possibly can. And then take like a couple more breaths. And you feel when you take that extra breath, like so, you know, you feel your diaphragm goes down. And then when you take that extra breath, like something lower somewhere all of a sudden goes, oh, I have to engage now because we thought we took as much breath as we possibly could, but then we took more, and then boom, something down there goes whoosh, and connects all of a sudden. You want that connection all the time. It's just like when we take that deep breath, we want the diaphragm to go down and we want the pelvic floor. One of the best explanations that I got is, you know, it's not about doing Kegels, which kind of constricts the pelvic floor. It's kind of like the machine that, the claw that goes down and picks up, which really doesn't, which picks up little stuffed animals at the carnival. It's like, that's how you want to imagine your pelvic floor. Your diaphragm goes down so that the lungs can fill up with air, and your pelvic floor goes whoosh. And on those videos, they have all kinds of great little models of pelvises and little balloons with the pelvic floor and how it works. So I will make sure that all of those are in there. Check them out because they're super important. But connecting to that breath, releasing all of this tension here in your musculature is super important. Okay, so hopefully that will help whoever asked that question. You know, and you need that breath in the singing. So, and the other thing you have to remember is that for these village ladies, like, I spend most of my time sitting at a computer all day on Zoom. These ladies are out planting potatoes. They are out planting rye, planting corn, using a scythe to, you know, like, sometimes they'll have a tractor, but most times they're doing hard physical manual labor. They are so connected to their breath that, you know, if I had to do the stuff that they do physically every day, at the end of the day, I would be done. But they are so connected to their breath that singing a song like this just comes out naturally. You know, one of the women in Starikony, which is a village in northwestern Ukraine, like, she gets up like 5 o'clock in the morning so she can make bread on a stove that is done on a wood burning stove. Like, so she's got like a wood pile out in her yard. She's got to do that. Then she's got to feed her pigs because, you know, of course she needs to have pigs. Feed the chickens. She does this. She does that. She goes, does some planting. She goes and hoes a row of something. And I'm like, how does she have time to do anything? And then, like, her job during the Soviet era was milking cows. So she went and, like, milked cows, like, 8 hours a day. And so, like, her breathing is so naturally deep and connected. We don't breathe like that anymore. So when she goes to call the spring, like, I have a naturally loud voice. And when I sang with her, she was like, wow, I wish I had 3 of you, because then I could sing how I wanted to sing. I thought, that's a lot of sound. Yeah. So anyway, hopefully all of that helps. We're going to go, we'll just sing through 2 verses of this, and then we'll go on and look at the other song. Good? Oh, Mary Shearhart, I love you. Thank you for being here today. You know, you can watch the video later. All right, 2 verses. Sing the parts that you want. If you just sing the drone the whole time, that's okay. I'm more interested in you connecting and figuring out how this sound works for you. And really, oh, another thing that is helpful, if words are giving you a trouble, you're like, oh my gosh, these words are crazy. Give yourself time with the words. Bleed it like a goat for the whole song. Just go. That will be more helpful for you than your brain blocking what your throat is doing and being like, oh my gosh, I'm not singing the words right. I'm not getting that palletized L. I'm not doing this. I'm not doing that. Like, it's better than you freaking out. And that will probably also help free up your voice. So bleat like a goat the whole song. If the words are getting in your way, leave the words out and just bleat. I'll sing the words because they're easier for me than they are for you. But, I mean, I don't hear you right now. Maybe your neighbors will hear you and they're wondering, what the heck is going on in Peggy's house? She's bleating like a goat for 3 hours. This is crazy. Who cares? This is my response as I get older to things. So I'm bleating like a goat. I'm in my home and I can bleat like a goat if I want to. So, yeah, if the words get in your way, just bleat like a goat to get that forward sound, that nasal resonance, and just bleat like a goat with me. So we're just going to do 2 verses. I see that the words were put in the chat. Thank you. Penny, you are amazing support in all of this. yeah, and if you want to just mat through, and we're going to take it a little bit higher. Don't freak out. It's going to be okay. It won't be the pitch that it's written there anyway. So we're going to start here. Oile, or meme. Oile, te strela da Yodels. Fantastic. I'm sure you're all singing beautifully like goats. And you'll hear on the recording that I made a recording that is just me singing so you could hear the parts better. On the refrain there are some variations. So sometimes you can sing or sometimes you can sing or sometimes you can sing all of those are valid. So, you know, if you have a group of 3 people, one of them can do one way, one of them can do another, one of them can do a third. And when you put them all together, guess what? You have polyphony. That's the magical thing about Policia, about this region, is that everybody sings like a little variation on the theme. And all of a sudden you put all those variations and it sounds like they're singing 12-part harmony. Because in some ways, you know, if you have 12 women singing, they're all singing their own part. It kind of ends up being like that. Okay, so I'm not watching the chat at all, but Penny, are there any questions specific to this song before we move on to the next song?
No, we're good. We've had lots of goat maying sounds and we're good to go.
Yeah, this region is very goaty. I say if you have to find your inner goat if you're going to sing from this region. This more so than other regions of Ukraine. Like finding your goat in general in Ukraine is good. But
there's also some confused cats, but they'll survive.
Yeah, my dog will usually sit in on my Zoom calls unless I'm teaching this music, and then she's like, "Yeah, I'm out of here." I am so done. All right, same region, village of Svaritsevichi. I'm gonna just play a short video excerpt. This will also be included. This is a family Chudanovici. They sang like a whole concert and then they had an after party, so I recorded this video at the after party, and so we're just going to watch a short bit because this is a song we're going to learn today. Oh no! Okay, well, my video... Okay. Goodness. Okay, my video wants to be fussy, but while my video is being fussy, I will also include this other thing. There is an amazing project that was done. I got funding from the European Union, and I will include this link as well. It's called polyphonyproject.com. I will just show this to you because it's so amazing. So this guy Miklos Bot, who is a Hungarian ethnomusicologist, got money from the European Union, money well spent, to go into various villages in Ukraine, especially now, money super well spent. Got these villagers to sing, actually write either in their homes or in their like village centers, recorded the songs, provided lyrics both in Ukrainian and then in Latin letters. But this is the part of the website that I love the most, is if you scroll down, it's not on this page? Oh no. So he's making a liar out of me. Apparently it's not on this song, but there are other songs where you can mute different. You can see these ladies each have their own microphone. You can mute 2 of the microphones and just listen to microphone number 1 and hear just what lady number 1 is saying. I mean, you still hear the other 2 in the background, but they're quieter. So you can isolate them and go, oh, that's the line that she's singing. And then listen to lady number 2 and hear her line more specifically, and listen to lady number 3, hear her line more specifically. And there's like, I don't know, like 500 songs or more. Actually, they just added a whole bunch more songs to this website. You could lose hours of your life. Well, actually, you can revel for hours at a time on this website. This song is on here. It's a little, the variation is a little different than the one that I transcribed because, you know, she just sings different variations. So that's okay. That's the great thing about folk music, is that there's all these different variations. So, oh yeah, I will give you a link to that website. It's called polyphonyproject.com, and it's totally amazing. And the music is also organized by, it's organized by village, it's organized by genre of song, it's organized by all kinds of stuff. There shouldn't be a space there, but my autocorrect put it in there. Yeah, there it is. It's a totally amazing website, very much worth your time. So we're going to go ahead and start picking apart the song. We'll probably just get through one verse, but that's okay. You know, what we get through, if we get through, it'll be more qualitative than quantitative, and I think that's okay. Because I'm more interested in you finding that sound, and then we can deal with the other things. So, Popід нашим садочку. So we're going to follow this middle line first, because this is the line that starts the song. Those of you who read Cyrillic, the Cyrillic is already there for you. Those of you who don't read Cyrillic, it's the line on top. And, oh, nothing really crazy. So good. Words first. Popід нашим. If there's a Y, it's an I, like lid or lip. If there's an I, it's an E sound, like eat. So, popід нашим садочком. So far, nothing crazy. Everyone say that with me. Popід нашим садочком, which means near our orchard. Popід нашим зеленим. So repeating words, which is very helpful. Popід нашим зеленим, which means next to our green one. And then our first set of a whole bunch of consonants together. Pshe, which isn't too bad actually if you know the word psha. So we say that those sets of consonants pretty often together. Pshenetia. And we say the word tsitsi fly too. So those consonants are not horrible. Pshenetia yara. And then we get to say that again. Pshenetia yara. These are not horrible words. So, how does that sound? I'll sing the whole thing and then we'll break it up. Popід нашим садочком, попід нашим зеленим, пшениця яра, пшениця яра. So this is a lyrical song. It's not as the spring calling song is. Usually the ritualistic songs are a lot more but it still can't be. You can't go Baroque on me, or you can't go operatic on me. You gotta it's still gotta be at least up in the teeth. If not, where you yeah.
Lean back slightly when you're singing. It's just starting to peak a bit. I know, you know, this happens.
I know. My poor microphone doesn't know what to do with me. It's just like, stop it. Okay. So just the first piece, the solo part. Popід нашим садочком. Just that. With me. Попід нашим садочком. One more time. Попід нашим садочком. Now, if you want to get fancy, and you can do a little yodel, you're welcome to do a little yodel. Again, practicing yodels. Once you learn how to do yodels, people start putting them everywhere. So it's like icing on a cake. You don't want to have flowers all over your cake. You want to have like a couple flowers because it's pretty. Then otherwise you get too many. So how do we practice yodels? It's like in any, if you practice country music, yodels in country music are the same as yodels in Ukrainian music. So, Попід нашим садочком. There's like a little yodel in there. It's not that big of one. It's not like a yodel. Although there are songs where that happens. But you can put a little glottal stop, maybe is a better word for it, in there. But don't put them everywhere. So if some of you have heard that, you're like, she's doing a little something in there. I sure am. And those are allowed. And if... Oh, and then how do you practice? If you want to practice your yodels, again, in the shower, when you're out and nobody's about. It really is stuff that nobody wants to listen to you do. But you can do all kinds of that kind of practicing. And really all yodels is you're just kind of flipping up into your falsetto for a second before you jump back to the note that you were on. That's all a yodel is. That's yodeling demystified. Yeah, like High on the Hill was the lonely goat herd. Exactly. Okay, going back. Now that I did a bunch of yodeling, what key are we in? Попід нашим садочком. One more time. Попід нашим садочком. Going on, here's the next part. Попід нашим зеленим, нашим садочком, попід нашим зеленим. Yep, that's right. I have to do it from the beginning, so forgive me because I kind of get lost if I don't do it from the beginning. So we'll do it from the beginning and add the additional phrase on. Попід нашим садочком, попід нашим зеленим. They're very similar phrases. One more time. Попід нашим садочком, попід нашим зеленим. Going on to the next part. Пшениця яра. One more time. Пшениця яра. Once again. Пшениця яра. And then we do like a little scale. Pshenicya yara. Just do the last one. Pshenicya yara. One more time. Pshenicya yara. So those last two together. Pshenicya yara. Pshenicya yara. So here it is slowly. Pshenicya yara. Pshenicya yara. Okay, so the whole middle line. Popід нашим, here we go. Попід нашим садочком, попід нашим зеленим. Пшениця яра, пшениця yara. One more time because we love it so much. Popid nashim sadoshkom, popid nashim zelenim, pshenetia yara, pshenetia yara. Good. So, any questions so far? Great. Now, the lower line, because it's very similar to the one that we just sang, just a couple little variations. This is very common in this region where the two lower lines are very similar to each other. So, the first one sings, you're going to come in on the same notes. Popid nashim zelenim, pshenitya yara, pshenitya yara. So you can hear how it's almost the same. You just have these slight little variations. I'm ignoring that phone, so you ignore it with me. I'll sing it again. This is the lower line. Popid nashim sadochkom, popid nashim zelenim, pshenitya yara, pshenitya yara. So in this video, just so you know, there's a man singing this part. So I get this question all the time. Especially so many of these videos are women, and they're like, do men sing this at all? Yeah, men generally sing high. So what happens is men sing high and women sing low, and so they end up singing kind of the same lines. Sometimes what happens is men will take the songs, pitch them lower, and have a completely male ensemble, just so that, so that guys don't have to sing in the stratosphere. And then they're singing all of the parts. They're just singing them like a fourth down or a fifth down, so that all of these parts are just pitched where men can sing them comfortably. Sometimes men will take the bottom line and sing them an octave lower. That happens a little less so that they can sing with the women. If you have like a super bass who's like, yeah, I'm not singing that high. So that's what you can do if you have an ensemble with a couple guys in there and they're like, hey, what am I supposed to do? That's something that you can do. Generally for that spring calling song, if a bunch of guys sang it, they might get, from ethnomusicologists in Ukraine, they might get the side eye. But at this point, I'm like, whoever wants to sing Ukrainian songs, if a bunch of men want to get together and sing a spring calling song, bring it. I think anybody should sing. If anybody wants to sing, they should sing. I'm not about to sit there and say, well, that is not really exactly authentic. I don't care. I want people to sing. I don't care if it's authentic. If this, if the lightning song calls to them and they're like, I want a bunch of guys to sing the song, I'll say, go sing the lightning song. I'll coach you. That's what I'll say. And then all the ethnomusicologists in Ukraine will say, oh my gosh, who coached you? And they'll say Nadia, and they'll go, oh, figures. She's a bit of a rabble-rouser. I sure am. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to sing the middle line, and then I'm going to go right into the bottom line. And you sing with me. If you want to listen, you can listen. If you want to just do it on goat sounds because the words are freaking you out and it's, getting later in the day, that's totally fine. Whatever will help you the most. So we'll do the middle line first, and then we'll do the bottom line because I want to spend some time talking about the top line because that's the part that tends to scare everybody. So middle and then bottom. Popid nashim sadochkom, popid nashim zelenim, pshenitya yara, pshenitya yara. We're going to do the bottom line, but I'm going to sing the solo because it'll help get into the bottom line. Popid nashim sadochkom, Попід нашим зеленим пшениця яра, пшениця яра. Fantastic. Now, the top line. The top line is where everybody gets scared. Yeah, so, Wobbylin, when you say, thank goodness, you're a deep bass, yeah, sing it down the octave. You're doing exactly right. Take care of your own voice and do what is within your range. I'm all about stretching ranges, though, too. So I always encourage people to sing all the parts because it's good for your muscles to sing everything. Now, we're going to get to the top part. I'm going to scoot way back. I'm going to face this way and sing the top part so my microphone doesn't freak out. And then this is where I always hear people, oh, I don't sing high. Oh, I can't do that. Oh, I can't. No. So I would encourage you to at least try. And so how do we find this top voice? This is where also that we encourage lots of yelling. Tell people to yell across the street. Oh, great question. Do most Ukrainian songs tend to be at full belt? No. The spring calling songs, yes. They're not at full belt, but they're definitely all in the front of the face. So, for example, just because we stopped for a second, and this is also important. So, like in the song that we're doing right now, if we were just to learn the top part, I still want to sing it. If I was going to sing it lightly, I still want to sing it in all these front resonators. So, you know, let's say we were singing on a bus or something and we didn't want to scream our lungs out. And I was singing the top part. I would sing it. You can still feel it's like it's still in that place, but it's not full out belt. Now the lady in the recording, she's doing full out belt because that's how that song is sung. But there are songs where they're like, oh no, this song is sung lightly, and we sing it very lightly and very tenderly. There are other songs where like, oh no, we're gonna sing it full out. So it depends on the song. And depends on also depends on, you know, the fatigue of your singers. You might be like at the end of a party and you're like, whew, yeah, I'm not belting this one. I'm just singing it lightly. I'm done with this one. Because it's just fatigue. So if you're dealing with somebody who's trying to find this sound and they're a little bit scared, I often have them just yell haze, and we'll do haze on pitches because we don't often think that when we talk on a pitch. We do. Generally a limited range of pitches, which is why speech therapists ask us to vary the range of our speaking voice so that it goes up and down and uses more of our range. So, you know, we just go, hey, 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 hey! And it's like all of a sudden you're haying at higher and higher pitches, which are very loud. And sometimes I'll say, you know, you just hayed at a pitch higher than what you have to sing. So you obviously can sing the song without any worries. So doing haze like that are very helpful. Goating, you know, bleating like a goat at various pitches until you go higher and higher. Meh, meh, meh. You know, I'm sure my microphone sounded great on the last meh. Can I drop a link to all the songs? Absolutely. And I'll drop a link for the songs that we did at the beginning, too, so that you can see them. So that's how you can find that higher voice, because people tend to be afraid of that higher voice. You don't need to be afraid of the higher voice. Just go for it. Okay, so speaking of the high voice, I'm looking at the time. Okay. Here's the top part. Попід нашим зеленим пшениця яра, пшениця яра. It's not that terrible, but sing it lightly because you're learning it. I'll sing it out. So just from where the top part starts. Just sing that. One more time. Now also, you'll notice that she has that little drop. Those who are singing the lower voice are waiting for that little figure, because they're going to hold that low note until she goes da-dum, because that's her signal that we're moving on, because she can hold that note. She's the top voice. She's leading this train. So if she wants to hang on that top note a little longer, she's allowed, because the bottom parts are, I mean, they're just holding one note. So they're waiting for her to have that figure. So those figures are really important, because there's a lot of listening that happens, and a lot of reacting to each other. We never in this music just kind of fly our own plane. We're always in formation, like, oh, they pulled ahead a little, oh, they did that figure, oh, I'm responding, oh, I'm waiting for this figure, and then I can go. Okay, one more time, that first part. Popi the knot with me. Popi the knot, here's the next part. That's actually not too hard. One more time. One more time. And now here's where it gets exciting, because we're going to go sing high. We're just going to let it go. It's going to be great. Sing the last part. One more time. And that one, again, you can just hold it, because you're the top voice. You can hold it as long as you want to. So the whole top line. Sing with me. Okay, now let me great, Penny, you are fantastic. Yeah, I have a million links for a whole bunch of different things between pelvic floors and songs and all of that. Plus, I sent, just so you all know, I sent to Penny, when I record these songs, I do them in a way where you'll hear all of the voices together, and then I do them so that you can hear the middle voice a little bit louder, and then you can hear the bass a little louder, and then you can hear the top voice. You still hear the other voices. It's kind of like the Polyphony Project. You still hear the other voices, but then one voice is more prominent than the other for learning purposes, because you need to be able to hear the harmonies in order to do this well. But then you can also hear that isolated line with all of its bells and whistles. All right. So I also want to leave time for questions, because I feel like there's going to be lots of questions, but that's okay. I want to allow time for questions. So we're going to do the whole thing. We're going to do the middle line. We're going to do the bottom line. We're going to do the top line. If you're feeling especially adventurous, you could sing a different line against me. If you're not there yet, that's totally fine. You're like, oh no, don't make me do that. If you want to sing with me, that's great. If you don't want to sing the words, you just want to sing on goat syllables, that's super great too. I'm more interested in you being free vocally and finding the placement. And, you know, like I said, I've listened to these songs for over 20 years. So words come easily for me. And so I don't expect them to come to you in 20 minutes. That would be a ridiculous expectation. So but I expect you to be able to bleat like a goat in 20 minutes. Everyone is able to do that. So, I will always sing the opening solo line because that helps me find the other voices. That's my crutch, so I apologize for that. So it will be opening solo line, middle, opening solo line, bottom, opening solo line, top. And when that top comes, just whoo, let it rip, let the neighbors know we are singing for Ukraine today. That's our starting note. With me, and I'll sit far away from my microphone. Popid нашим садочком, попід нашим зеленим, пшениця яра, пшениця яра. Low voice. Попід нашим садочком, попід нашим зеленим, пшениця яра, пшениця яра. Top voice. Попід нашим садочком, попід нашим зеленим, пшениця яра, пшениця яра. Did we all survive? Great.
There's lots of wooing in every house. It's just that you can't hear, like everyone's like woo, yeah, like, woo! You know, and there's bleating. It's all. If only you could hear it.
I do see yes, woo, meh. Good. So I know I'm going to wax rhapsodical, but before it gets too far, the first thing I want to say to all of you is thank you so much. This music was given to me mostly through little old ladies, and they're just so generous with everything. Like, you know, I would like come to their house in the middle of the afternoon, like knock on the door. Hey, I'm from America. I'm collecting folk songs. Do you have some time? They always had time. Like, it didn't matter if they were in the middle of something. Oh, yeah. And if they didn't, they'd be like, oh, I don't know any songs, but you need to go to see my friend Nina. My friend Nina, like, she has a big dog in her yard, the green door. Go down and tell her I sent you. And, you know, and I'm starting to talk like them. Tell her I sent you. and, you know, it's just, and they did. And it would be like in the middle of the afternoon, and they would put down whatever they were doing. They would open their door and they'd say, yeah, sit down. And then they would introduce me to their friends. And then they would like invite all of their friends over for an evening, and they're like, oh, she's coming from America, we have to sing her all the songs that we know. And this is how it would just kind of just grow in this way. And, you know, these songs were given so fully with open hearts. And I mean, first there's always the skepticism, like, you know, why do you want to learn these songs? You're this American girl. But then once you started learning and singing with them, or like if you'd been there a couple times and you already knew some of their songs and you came back and you sang with them, that was actually once you knew their songs and came back to them, they look forward to you coming, because, you know, as they get older, their friends, you know, I deal with a lot of old people. People die. This is just a reality of life. And so when you have a group of 80-year-old women and then they're like, oh, she used to sing the third part, but she's not here anymore. And you're like, I can sing the third part. They're like, oh, you can? Great. You know, and they could sing songs that fell out of practice or whatever, because they just didn't have the people to sing them with them. Like that first video that we showed, like those are all 3-part harmonies, and those are the only 2 women left from that original group. And so singing 3-part harmonies with 2 people is not it's rough. And so you have Yeah, so thank you so much for learning these songs. And, you know, every time I talk to them, which now I try and measure those calls because I never know what's happening over there. You know, when I tell them, oh, we had another workshop and we had this many people and we had this, they're just, and now when we're saying, and we're raising money for Ukraine, and they're like, our songs raise that much money? And you're like, yeah. And they're like, oh, you know, then it's tears and everything else. But, just being able to share these songs with you today and sing, as someone wrote, it was a heart-mending event, and I agree with you. So I wanted to get that out of the way, and then I want to answer any questions, which I'm sure there are some. So thank you. I wanted to say thank you first, and thank you to Penny for just shooting an email out in the dark and hoping for a response. So yes, Helen's question, because I see it, is there a translation of the words? In the PDFs that I provide, I do translations. I don't like to do poetic translations, though. I like to do word-for-word ones, because I feel it's important when you're singing. If you're singing the word pshenica, you should know that pshenica means wheat. Or if you're singing, you know, zeleny, you should know that zeleny means green. So when you look at the translation, the syntax looks crazy. But you can make your own poetic translations from the word-for-word ones, because I feel it's more important for you. Liz Parcells said, I can't believe the sound I just made. Liz, I wish I could hear the sound you made. Don says, feeling lightheaded. Yes, be careful of that, because sometimes that does happen. So sometimes when you do that deeper breathing with the pelvic floor, you might feel a little lightheaded. So be careful. Which is also sometimes why we do that deep breathing while laying down on the floor, so that people won't fall over. But then sometimes also what happens is that people become very relaxed, which is great. But then they fall asleep, because usually we don't allow ourselves to be very relaxed unless we're unconscious. So we encourage you to try and be relaxed and conscious. So that's not always easy. Yes, another shout out to the Polyphony Project. Such a great project. Oh, gosh. Thank you. Thank you for all of your beautiful words here. These are beautiful. I'm sort of skimming through the chat. If I've missed something, Penny, I will trust you to help me. What is the Ukrainian name for this polyphonic folk singing style? Beautiful. So it's called Bahato Holosia, which means many voices. I can write that in the chat. But it's essentially
Say that again?
Sure. I'll write it in the chat for you. But it's essentially polyphony, Bahato Holosia, which means many voices. So I will write that in the chat. I'll just make sure it's to everyone, because sometimes Bahato means many, and I'm sure the Bahato Holosia. I'm so glad that the autocorrect didn't want to do anything with that word. Which means many voices. For some people, lying on the floor means you can't get back up again. I know, my mother has that problem. So we always make adjustments for your body. I will never make anybody do anything that will make us call the paramedics to help get you off of the floor. And I'm looking for questions. Yes, there are very many similarities between singing in Bulgarian and singing Ukrainian, which is why I love using that Bulgarian video. And I also studied with a lot of Bulgarians. They helped me find that sound. Does that apply across Slavic Balkan countries? I think it does, because I studied with Donka Kolova and Maria Bevelikova, and even did some Albanian singing with, oh gosh, I can't think of her name right now. It might come to me. But yeah, because in Bulgaria, they do have that forward kind of sound. They do use that smile when they sing. And so there are many things that I learned from Bulgarians when I studied with them that I totally use when I sing Ukrainian music. So I do think that there's a lot of crossover there.
There was another question earlier that you spoke to a little bit about it being a largely female tradition, and where the men's voices sit was super helpful. I wonder if you want to talk, just, it feels so pertinent just now that it is a female tradition, partly because so many men over so many years have been sent off to war by different empires. I wonder if you wanted just to speak to that for a second, Nadia.
Yeah, that's a great question, and yes, that is true. And it's funny because there are some songs that you hear these women sing and you're like, they're singing about sailors and boats, and they're singing about men and armies going off to war, and you're like, are these really your songs? And they're like, we liked them, so we sang them. I mean, they just kind of took them over. But if you think, during the time of the Tsars, I learned about this tradition, and it broke my heart when I learned about it. If a young man was conscripted into the Tsarist army, it was, depending on the kind of conscription, it could have been a 10, 15, 20, 25 year engagement. So often what would happen in some villages when a young man got that draft notice is the family would literally have a funeral for their son because they never expected to see him again. Because, first of all, that's a very long time to be away from your family, and second, there was no guarantee that he would actually make it through the conflict on the other end alive. And so, there are all these songs about, I got a draft notice, I don't know if I'll ever see you again, don't cry for me, go marry somebody else, because, that's pretty much the end. And so, so a lot of men ended up being taken away for a variety of reasons. But, like, that particular story just always breaks my heart when I hear it. I just think, wow, to what end, really? And now the situation, but it's just even more frightening. But the women would just end up taking up all those songs and just singing them because I like them. It didn't, it's funny. We were talking about old, and it's not just Ukrainian women, just like old Slavic women in general. It's a very rough generation to say no to. Like, I know when I sing with them, I might want to sing a certain part, and they'll say, oh, no, you need to sing this part, and you just say yes. Or they'll say, oh, no, you need to sit over there, you just say yes. Or, or you need to do this, you always just say yes, because you can't argue with them. You just, and the other, and I think about these, these poor, like, young Russian soldiers who are going into Ukraine right now. They're just, and there's stories about them just being completely flummoxed and flabbergasted and not knowing what to say. Like, there's that great video of the lady with the sunflower seeds. Like, she's walking up to a group of guys who are all armed, and all she has is sunflower seeds in her pockets, and she goes, here, I want you to put these sunflower seeds in your pockets, because when you die on my land, I want something nice to grow out of the ground. And I think, lady, what are you doing? Like, you're walking up to and the look on the kid's face is like, I don't know what, like, I don't know what to do with this lady. And, it's just extraordinary that, every story that I hear breaks my heart, but also just, steals my reserve in some way. But that's why there's a lot of ladies singing, and you'll see in those Polyphony Project videos, they're almost all women. It makes me wonder what happened to the guy. There's another thing happening in Ukraine right now. I mean, this is pre-war talking. You'll go into certain villages and the demographic is very young and very old, and you're like, okay, where are the 20 to 40-year-olds? There's like this missing generation. And a lot of those people are in Europe. They're in Poland, they're in Italy, cleaning houses, working as taxi drivers, doing, low-end kind of menial kind of work because the euro is stronger in those countries, and then they can send money back. And so it is like I spent Easter in a village where you expect there to be a ton of people because it's Easter, it's a holiday, like you expect everybody to be there. And it was like really young kids, a couple people who probably got time off for the holiday, and like that 20 to 40 year demographic, and they're really old. And I was like, where is everybody? They're like, oh, she's in Italy, oh, she's in France, oh, my daughter's working in Spain, oh, my nephew's working in Poland. And that demographic is out of the country. Well, now who knows where they are? They're probably still out of the country, but yeah. And
I'm gonna say thank you hugely. I'm saving the chat so you can get to read some of these beautiful comments that have been shared, and the huge appreciation that people have for not just the music you've shared, but the insight and I feel like I've met so many people in your descriptions of voices and songs and situations, and I'm sure everyone in the room does as well, and know that these songs will go on and be some flower seeds in other places, and help other people connect with Ukrainian people and Ukrainian culture. I just want to say to everyone, thank you so much. I didn't say at the beginning, I should have said that I know lots of people have made donations, and we've put a list of places that Nadia is particularly keen on us supporting. I know that everyone who is able will make donations and support Ukrainian people in different ways, as well as sharing the songs. Nadia offered to do this session for free, and you will find when you finish the session, Nadia, that I have made a payment to you on the understanding, as I said, that this all takes a huge emotional toll, and you are only to use that money to look after yourself and take some time off and do some regenerative, not looking at the news, not stressed out feeling stuff, because it's a huge honor and a huge treasure for us to have spent this time with you and learn from you, but it does take its toll. It is a really difficult time, and we're all feeling it, even if we don't have Ukrainian friends and neighbors and family members. So please know that we really appreciate the energy and time that you've spent with that, and please go and spend some time on yourself as a thank you from all of us for that. But know that most of the donations are going to support people in Ukraine. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. We have recorded this, and it will be made available. I will send a link later tonight that's got the scores and MP3s that Nadia so generously made for us to do it properly when we go back and share the songs with others. And as I say, Nadia, your insight has just been immense, and thank you.
Yeah, and if you have a question,
everyone, Lil, just to give Nadia a great big whoop, like, could we just do a collective goat? Is that possible?
Yes, I hope so.
I've asked all to unmute. You should have an option to unmute. Let's get bleating.
Most wondrous sound.
Oh my god. That's not a standing ovation of the goats.